Happy February, folks, and welcome to episode 479 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. I am Graham GSM Matthews, coming off a hectic Royal Rumble weekend. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. Royal Rumble weekend was great. I flew in on Thursday, as I probably talked about last week, came back on late Monday night. It was a great 4 or 5 days in San Antonio. I was at the Rumble, all the media events over the weekend, the 2K23 event. I did take footage of myself playing the game. My first reactions to the game. I did a singles match, I did a War Games match, I did a Royal Rumble match. So for anyone interested in that sort of stuff, I am hoping to have that footage up at some point in the next few days. I think the embargo release date, whatever, I think might be today. 2K said you can't, not just to me, but to everyone, you can't release the footage of you playing the game or whatever. We can't release actual footage of the game, but ourselves playing the game works, I guess. We can't release that until today or tomorrow, so I'm hoping to have that up at some point. I did a ton of interviews while I was there, literally 10 fucking interviews, so they'll be up at some point. I'm awful when it comes to that sort of stuff. I'm very behind on SmackDown Lowdown, Raw Talk, stuff like that, but we are on time with #AskGSM here today, as we are every single week on Wednesday. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. We'll start with Central Man Network from YouTube. Their question was, do you think this Option C stuff killed the credibility of the X Division title or not? Now he's talking about the Impact X Division Championship. Option C started in 2012 when Austin Aries was the X Division champion. He'd been champion for so long. I think he broke the record for longest reigning X Division champion of all time, if I'm not mistaken. He was a great champion, but he had reached the point where he was ready for the main event scene. So they came up with Option C, where if you're the X Division champion, it used to be around the time of Destination X, and then you can cash in at Destination X for a shot at the championship. They haven't done that in a long time. In recent years, they've just kind of announced that if you're the X Division champion, you can randomly just say, maybe it's only once a year, I'm not sure. You can just randomly say, I want to cash in my championship for a shot of the world title. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. Austin Aries won, Chris Sabin won, but we had Frankie Kazarian do it just last year. He didn't win. Josh Alexander did in 2021. He cashed in his X Division championship for a shot of the world title, Bound for Glory 2021. Won the belt, albeit briefly, before winning it back. I've always liked the Option C stuff. Honestly, I thought it was a really cool twist on the Money in the Bank cash-in. Now, they used to do Feast or Fired, which I thought was a dumb concept. And usually whoever was fired, got the fired briefcase, would be legitimately fired and would not be clued into it until they opened up the briefcase. That's pretty shitty. And that happened with more than one person. I know it happened with, I think, Cody Deaner, definitely Chavo Guerrero. I don't know about Daniels in 08, but when he was Curryman or whatever. But they've done it legitimately to people in the past, where they would actually fire them. Which is pretty shitty, but, that was basically Money in the Bank, and they would have, a briefcase for each championship they had, one for the X Division title, the tag titles, the world title. That's, 3 different cash-ins. This isn't, a surprise thing. It's, something you announce in advance. I've always liked the Option C stuff. It does make the X Division championship make it feel transactional. It does make it feel like a stepping stone, but it also does make it feel like whoever's the champion can cash in at any time. Not that night, but we say, hey, listen, I want a shot of the world championship. And really, I think the whole point of it initially was to give the X Division guys more opportunities at the main event level. Because for a long time, they were just shoehorned into one division without really ascending to that next level. Austin Aries got to that next level. Sabin did briefly. I mean, he won the championship for a month, then he was right back down to the X Division tag team title scene. But a lot of people have been elevated through Option C, Josh Alexander being another one over the years. So there's been a few others. Austin Aries did it 2 or 3 fucking times, but there's been a few others. I've always liked the Option C stuff. The X Division Championship should feel more important. It's a great division. They had a great 2021 and a great 2020. They were fucking killing it with some of those matches, and a great 2022 as well. But it hasn't, I don't think, main evented a pay-per-view in a really long time. it really does feel like a stepping stone championship, which it's kind of intended to be as a secondary title. I get that. But they could do a better job, I think, of making it feel more important by having X Division championship matches, headline pay-per-views, headline Impact, which doesn't happen often enough. Micah does it from YouTube. Their first of the 3 questions was, once Cody Rhodes wins the WWE Championship, do you see the fans turning on him like they did with Seth Rollins in 2019? I truly hope they don't. I like Cody Rhodes. Anything is possible. Wrestling fans can be fickle. We saw it with Rollins in 2019. The thing with Rollins in 2019, though, I think it was a mixture of a lot of different things. And it also falls on Seth as well. He was doing media around that point, around the time AEW was getting going. They had just announced they were opening their promotion. Moxley had just joined. He had said some not so flattering things about Moxley, not burying him at all, but like, it was right after the Moxley podcast dropped about like his time in WWE. And Rollins thought, oh, why is he being so bitter? Which that podcast, if you fucking listen to it, was the exact opposite of bitter. Moxley seems like one of the most down-to-earth, genuine people there is. So for him to take exception to his run in WWE certainly says a lot. You would think Rollins would know that. He probably later came to terms with it, maybe even apologized to Moxley privately after the fact. Who knows? None of our business. But, we said stuff about AEW, about WWE, calling it the best company in the world, which you're going to say is the world champion as the face of the company at that point. The problem was that it really wasn't. Even without AEW being a thing, WWE's product still was not great in 2019. So for him to say, oh, we're the best wrestling company, I mean, you don't see fucking Roman Reigns saying that every day. He's not doing as much media as Rollins was back in 2019, but still, that kind of turned people against him. The whole WWE thing, which made sense. He would make comments about Will Ospreay, I think, among other people. The way he was booked on TV, too, was not great. His reign was very forgettable. His first fucking challenger, like his first feud as champion, was with Baron fucking Corbin. Actually, I take that back. I think he feuded with AJ Styles briefly, and they had an amazing match on Money in the Bank, but they spent way more time on the Corbin shit than they did with AJ Styles. And then the Brock feud didn't really help at all. He would get like killed in a match with Brock and then still win anyway. That didn't make much sense. So people were getting tired of babyface Seth. It wasn't exactly the best version of babyface Seth. And then people just get fickle anyway and turn on anyone. I mean, it happened with Kofi Kingston. Kofi did nothing to warrant people turning against him. And people were still like, oh, this reign is so boring, even though he had a pretty good reign. People still turned against him because he wasn't the fresh new thing anymore. So that's just how fans work. We all know that. Will it happen with Cody Rhodes? It really is inevitable. I don't think people turn on him before WrestleMania, or at least the vast majority. I don't think it happens soon after Mania either, assuming, and he should, win the championship at WrestleMania. Maybe later on in the year, and with Cody a lot like with Rollins, they're both natural heels. I mean, Rollins can be a great babyface, which he is right now, when he has the crowd behind him. Same thing with Cody Rhodes. He's an amazing babyface, but Cody can go as a heel. We all wanted him as a heel officially in AEW. We didn't really get that towards the end there. He kind of teased it, which he wasn't a heel. It was stupid. But we know he can be a great heel as well. So when that day comes, I fully welcome it. I just don't think that day needs to come anytime soon. His second question, after the betrayal of Sami Zayn on the Bloodline at the Royal Rumble, will this make Sami Zayn a bigger babyface than Cody Rhodes, forcing WWE to make him one of the one to dethrone Roman Reigns at WrestleMania? The fact of the matter is this: the biggest babyface, or the biggest star, the most popular star in terms of favorable crowd reactions right now in WWE is indeed Sami Zayn, even more so than Cody Rhodes. Sami Zayn is white hot right now. I've always said this, and I'm sticking to this, and I'm glad WWE is going this route. You do Sami and Roman in Montreal, and Roman wins. And I've seen other people say, which is a great idea, you tease Jay splitting from the Bloodline, but he ultimately doesn't, and he helps Roman win, and that's how we get the Usos against Sami and Owens at WrestleMania. Sami and Owens, and I'll answer this question in a little bit, I've said this a million times before, and I've been saying this for a long time now, need to win the tag team titles at WrestleMania. There's no ifs, ands, or buts in my mind about that. It needs to happen at WrestleMania. So, with that being said, they kind of have to have Sami lose to Roman in Montreal at Elimination Chamber. Sami getting his big Daniel Bryan moment at WrestleMania would be amazing, don't get me wrong. But Cody's the one to build around. He's the face of the company. I just don't see them booking Sami to have this Daniel Bryan-esque run coming out of WrestleMania. Maybe they surprise me and he does, but he doesn't feel like a guy to have an extended reign as champion. Sami Zayn absolutely could. I mean, if fucking Jinder Mahal and, even Kofi Kingston, who's not bad, obviously. Kofi's great. But if Kofi can get a 6-month run out of it as champion and he wasn't the guy, then I think Sami Zayn can as well. But for right now, I think Cody Rhodes is the guy to go with long term. Because whoever beats Roman, to me, I understand giving Sami his big moment, but to me, it's the reign afterwards. Sami can get an extended reign at some point. Whoever beats Roman has to be made into a main eventer. I don't see Sami staying at the main event level forever after beating Roman Reigns. I just don't. And I think that would be a waste. For example, if Kofi Mania came around in 2019, or came around today, you're not going to have him lose. But at the same time, it's like, all right, if Kofi beats Roman, he has to stay at the main event level. And after he lost the championship in 2019, he did not. Now, it would be a different story, I would think, in 2023, with Triple H in charge of creative now. But with Cody Rhodes, I'm a lot more confident he will stay at that level where he belongs. So, no, I would not have Sami be the one to throw Roman. They have far worse options than that, obviously, but Sami Zayn is 1B. To me, it's got to be Cody Rhodes. I've always said that, dating back a year. I just think it makes the most sense. You can make him into a main eventer, an official main eventer with that win. The match should be great. The story sells itself. And then, listen, maybe Cody Rhodes goes heel later on in the year and Sami beats him for the championship. I mean, there's a lot of stories you could tell there as well. So, no, I would keep it Cody Rhodes in my opinion. And then his third question was, what did you think of both the 2023 men's and women's Royal Rumble matches? I was in the building at the Alamo Dome. Cody Rhodes winning was great to see, and Rhea winning from the number one position was also another thing that was great about the show. But overall, what were your thoughts of the show in the city of San Antonio? Well, I'm glad you were there. I didn't know you were going to be there, I don't think, but I was there as well. Would have loved to have met you before the show or something, but yeah, no, I actually really liked the show. I thought it was a very good show. The Rumble matches I thought were good. We've seen better Rumble matches. They were better than last year. I actually enjoyed the women's one last year, but I thought the women's one this year was better than the one last year. You can make an argument which was better, the men's or the women's overall. It might have been the women's. I don't know. I'd really have to think about it. But both Rumbles were very good. And we had the right winners, and the finishes were excellent. The fantastic finishes really made the matches for me. The mid-card matches were not great. The lights out, pitch black match, whatever the fuck it was very underwhelming. Belair and Alexa Bliss was very anticlimactic. Roman and Kevin Owens was very good, but the real main event was what happened afterward. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. The city of San Antonio, I had never been there before. I've only been to Texas outside of the airport once, and that was last year for WrestleMania. So I was happy to be back for the Rumble weekend. And I checked out San Antonio. It was a really nice, beautiful-looking city. The Riverwalk looked cool. We walked around that a little bit. Didn't go on any tours or anything, but we walked around that a little bit after like the media stuff. We went on a ghost tour on Sunday in downtown San Antonio, which was really cool, called the Grimm Sisters or Sisters Grimm or whatever it's called. And that was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I would definitely go back. I've actually really enjoyed the state of Texas anytime I've been there. So, anytime there's another big show that WWE does there down the road, I would love to check it out. The Alamo Dome was pretty cool. The outside of it looked like shit, but the inside of it was fine. I was in the press box. I don't know how the seats are in the actual arena, but it was a nice arena once you got inside. The outside of it was like impossible. Like the security was a mess. There's like fucking train tracks right outside the building separating the parking lot from the arena. It was very bizarre to me. But overall, I thought it was a good time and a great weekend. So now we move on to the Facebook questions here from Noel. Their first one was, do you see John Cena costing Austin Theory the United States Championship at Elimination Chamber? I don't. I don't think they would fly in Cena for a quick 10-second angle where he costs Theory the championship. It's inside Elimination Chamber, so unless this is Elimination Chamber 2010, where Cena comes through the, underneath the floor of the structure, like Shawn did with Undertaker in 2010, I don't think that's happening. That wouldn't even make much sense. Like, they're in the fucking chamber, and then what? His music goes off? I mean, we are getting Cena in Theory at WrestleMania. I'm convinced of that. Unless something changes, I am convinced we're getting Cena in Theory at WrestleMania. Theory can lose the championship at Elimination Chamber, and, I mean, he's going to have to be pinned because it's a chamber match, but and it won't matter. It won't matter if he loses because there's a lot of great talent in there. You can give the belt to Johnny, Bronson Reed. I don't think Montez Ford is winning, but he's great. Damian Priest. Rollins is not winning, and I don't think he should anyway. But, no, I don't see Cena costing him the championship, but I could see a scenario where maybe, like, Johnny Gargano wins the championship, and then on the next night's Raw, maybe on the next night's Raw, Cena comes out to cost him his rematch against Johnny, and he costs him the championship then. I could see a situation where that happens. Their next question, which I've answered a lot, but I'll answer it again. Do you think Sami and Kevin should beat the Usos for the tag team titles? I mean, I'm sticking to my guns here. They absolutely fucking should. And not for one set of titles. They need to beat them for both sets of championships. Both belts. The match was, the match should be great. The storyline writes itself, especially if Jey Uso costs Sami the win in Elimination Chamber, betrays his trust. It just makes the most sense. So, that's the Mania match. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to Rhea and Charlotte. That is the Mania main event is perfectly fine with me. But if we don't get that in the main event, to me, it's got to be Sami and Kevin versus the Usos. That is also a WrestleMania caliber main event on night 1. And then Roman and Cody on night 2. Just my opinion, though. We go to the Twitter questions. Let's see. I skipped out of it for some reason, and I don't know why. I think... First one from noob_n_co TV. Your thoughts on the pitch black match of the Royal Rumble. I find the match great visually wise, but the match quality is borderline terrible than the zombie lumberjack match. That lumberjack zombie match a couple years ago was fucking rough. This wasn't like a bad match. They made the most of the time they had. It's just, that stipulation with the zombies was just awful. That was some campy ass bullshit. Honestly, the lights for this match didn't really bother me. Like the neon lights, I thought Bray looked cool. Knight had the white on. I thought that was cool. I just thought it was I thought that was cool. Like you said, it looked great visually. The match itself, I wouldn't say was terrible. It was just kind of a waste of time. It was very underwhelming. They only got 5 minutes. I'm not sure if it would have been any better if it was longer. Just no one really seemed to give a fuck. It was a really underwhelming match for as much as they've built this up and talked about it over the last month or so. It really wasn't really anything out of the ordinary. So, I wasn't a fan of the match personally. At Kyle Rochelle 19, with Becky and Baileys match next week, will it be a qualifier for the Elimination Chamber and be the end of this feud? Could Bianca face Asuka at WrestleMania since Rhea is facing Charlotte? I agree on both. I do think Becky and Bayley next week, their steel cage match should be a qualifier. Because if it's not, they have one more qualifier to announce. I'm very fearful it might be Ronda Rousey. I don't hate Ronda. I actually like Ronda, but I just think it really should be Asuka. To answer your second question, I think it should be Asuka and Bianca at Mania. Asuka's return, re-debut as Kana, whatever the fuck you want to call it, at the Rumble was awesome. And I know we've seen Bianca and Asuka before, but never in a full-fledged feud. We got it a couple times last year, heading into Hell in a Cell. They had a great triple threat with Becky. They haven't had a one-on-one pay-per-view match yet. And this version of Asuka versus Bianca would be great. So, I hope Asuka wins the Chamber. The qualifier they announced, Michin, Candice, I feel like they're canceled out because they're in the midst of like a tag team title feud right now with Io Sky and Dakota Kai, so they're probably not winning. Piper Niven to Carmella, I would probably have Piper win. I like Carmella being back. Great to see her back. I would prefer Piper, but I could see Carmella winning now that she's returned, although Piper returned as well. Becky and Bayley, if they finish their feud next week, which I think they will, I do think this is the end of their feud. Unless they have Becky win and they want to do a rubber match, because they only have had one match so far in their feud that Bayley won back in December. So if they want to do a rubber match, I could see them having another match at Elimination Chamber. But to at least get one of them on the show, I think Becky should win and be in the Chamber. And, not win the Chamber, but at least be in the Chamber to tease. Maybe we get Becky and Bianca again at WrestleMania. His next question, looks like Rhea will be a part of SmackDown in the future, then have more women on SmackDown so there's a good roster again. Is that a smart thing to do? We don't know if Rhea is going to be on SmackDown permanently moving forward. Her group is on Raw, that being Judgment Day. What I assume is going on here, maybe this is just wishful thinking, the brand split is dead. It has been pretty much since Triple H took over, even before he took over. Triple H doesn't give a fuck what brand you're aligned to or associated with. He will book whoever he wants on whatever show if it makes sense for him. What I would do is this. Do whatever the fuck you want going into WrestleMania. It's a free-for-all. Have Rhea go for a SmackDown title. Hopefully she wins it. Coming out of WrestleMania, do a hard draft and finally determine what shows people are going to be on. Because remember, these rosters were not made by Triple H. And doing a draft in the middle of November, October, as they usually do, makes no fucking sense unless it's right after WrestleMania. So figure out what you want to do at WrestleMania, who's going to hold what championship, and then do a draft and a hard reset of the brand split, which I know it's impossible to take seriously, I understand, and then stick to those rosters. That's what I would do. Would Rhea, yes, Rhea should absolutely win the SmackDown Women's Championship. I would move all of Judgment Day, who are doing great work right now, in my opinion, move them all over to SmackDown together. Ray's over there with Dominic. That would make sense. Do that feud over there. Finn and Damian can go to SmackDown. So, yeah, Rhea going on her own without Judgment Day. If they're going to be splitting them up, I'm not a fan of that. But if she's with them on SmackDown, I like that. So, yeah, I do think Rhea's going to SmackDown, switch things up over there, and hopefully the aforementioned draft can make the SmackDown Women's Division more interesting as well. You know, spread the wealth a little bit from Raw. Raw's got a lot of great, talented women. Not that SmackDown doesn't, but it feels like Raw has more star power with Bianca, Becky, Bayley, a lot of other great talent on that show right now that they're using. SmackDown has good talent. They just don't know what the fuck to do with them. So, kind of spreading it around a little bit. They could do a better job of that moving into and coming out of WrestleMania, in my opinion. Noob's second question, what's your reaction on Asuka's return at the Royal Rumble and her new character? I find it very interesting and compelling. A lot of people amazed and have been talking about it for the past couple of days. Listen, Noob, I know you're the biggest Asuka fan in the world, so you're going to love when I say this, but I thought it was really cool. When I was there, one of the coolest parts of that Women's Rumble, really of the entire show, of the entire fucking show, was when Asuka revealed her new Kana makeup. And listen, she's got to be more aggressive, and she's got to change the character. Her rambling in Japanese, which I know isn't her fault, that's what they were writing her to do and scripting her to do whatever for years now. They have to completely eliminate that from her character. If she just has new makeup and a new haircut, that's cool, but it's not enough. And I'm not saying they haven't done that. We got a new look at Asuka on Raw, and she acted very different from any way we've seen her act up to this point in WWE. So it's a good start. If she goes back to doing exactly what she was doing before, I'm not a fan of that at all. But I thought what we got at the Rumble was great. What we saw on Raw was really fucking cool. The way she was dressed. The mist dripping out of her mouth was bizarre. That whole thing was really cool. So I liked it a lot. It was exactly the fresh coat of paint she needed. I've never really pitched that. I've said before, like, I'm so bored of Asuka because she's faced everyone. She's has great matches and whatnot, but she has had matches with everyone on the roster. She's beaten everyone. She's lost to everyone. She's held every championship. I just don't care about Asuka. But they finally gave her something new to do, something different, something she can really sink her teeth into, and I like that. I never really pitched that idea before because I didn't really know what that would entail exactly. Because we've seen her turn heel before, and it's been fine. She works well as a heel, but it was still the same rambling, Japanese promos that we've heard before, and it's not like we've heard her cut promos before. They just don't want to have the fans to take her seriously, or at least in the past they didn't. There was a lot of instances where she would be made to look like a clown a lot of the time, and thankfully we're not seeing that anymore. So I like that a lot. I'm very much on board with this Asuka repackaging. I'm glad they went through with this. I wasn't sure if they actually would or not, because Asuka's been the same character now for really what feels like 5 or 6 years. But I'm a fan of it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. At Iwagu91, did you hear about Coda Abushi's contract in New Japan expiring? I did, and I'm very excited. I actually just saw a headline this morning. I don't know where he did the interview, so I apologize if I forget, but I saw a headline from Fightful from an interview that he did, indicating that he doesn't plan to go to AEW anytime soon, but he does plan on talking to AEW eventually. If he doesn't sign to the AEW, which I think he should, I'm not sure what his status is. Does he want to move here? Does he live here? Would he want to? I don't know. He might have to. But anyway, so I definitely think they can use fucking Coda Abushi on Dynamite, at least for a one-off. Him coming to the aid of Kenny Omega or facing Danielson or something would be sexy as hell. So hopefully that's inevitable. I'm sure it will be. I don't know, WWE interest him. I mean, I know he did the whole Cruiserweight Classic. That was years ago. Triple H, who booked that tournament, is now in charge. So I wouldn't completely write that out as a possibility. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Abushi can do now that he's a free agent and that he's able to wrestle again. I wasn't sure if he'd be able to or when he'd be able to because he's been out injured for a very long time now. So very excited to hear that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he pops up next. Speaking of Coda Abushi and Iwagu91's next question, he said, what are your thoughts on Mike Bailey? Coda Abushi's actually facing Mike Bailey. I'm not sure if that's why you asked the question. He's facing Mike Bailey at that GCW WrestleMania weekend show, I believe. I think that might be Coda's first major match back, if I'm not mistaken. He might have other matches before then, but that sounds fucking awesome. I'm not a GCW fan at all, from the little I've seen of that promotion, but Coda and Mike Bailey sound sexy as fuck. Mike Bailey's great. I've seen his work in Impact this past year. He had a really good run as X Division champion. He had that awesome match of the year contender with Josh Alexander for the World Championship on Impact late last year. Mike Bailey's great. He's still got to get the character stuff down. He's not a great talker. He sounds very, I don't want to say fake or phony or forced, but he's not a great talker. He's maybe got to either get a mouthpiece or work on that. I don't see him being a main eventer right now, but from what I've seen of his work in the ring, the guy's tremendous, and that Coda Abushi match is going to be killer. Let's see, his next question here, do you think Indy Hartwell will join Raw? I think she will. I don't know if she will right now, but I think she will eventually. I was very happy to see her in the Royal Rumble. I've been following Indy now, like literally, not literally following her, but, following her on Twitter, and we've been Twitter friends, I guess you can say, well before she joined WWE, even before she joined wrestling. I've known her through Twitter for like 10 years now, so to see her rise the ranks and end up in NXT in the Royal Rumble, I was there on Saturday. To see that moment in person was really cool for me personally. Indy's great. She's very talented. I think she'll do well wherever she goes next. I think Raw makes the most sense, though, because Johnny's there, Candice is there, her husband, or ex-husband, whatever, Dexter Lumis is there. I could totally see a situation where they get the way back together. So, time will tell if they do that. But, I don't know. I haven't watched NXT yet. I heard she had a match on Tuesday against Zoe Stark and she lost. I thought maybe the Rumble would have been her call-up because, she lost to, who was it, Tiffany Stratton last week on the show. If she continues losing, I could see this being a situation where they're writing her off by having her lose on her way out, like they did with Cameron Grimes. We just haven't seen Cameron Grimes yet, which is weird. I'm not sure what his status is either. But Indy Hartwell, I hope, is on her way up. It's long overdue. She should have been called up months ago, to be honest. But if they don't have a plan for her, then whatever. But I think her and Candice can do really well in the tag team division. They're doing Meechin and Candice right now, but, Meechin and Candice are a good team, but I think Candice and Indy make more sense given their history in NXT, at least in my opinion. So hopefully it's inevitable we see Indy Hartwell on Raw sooner rather than later. The last Twitter question here, Misdemeanor 6. With AEW heading to the UK at last this year, which UK wrestlers would you like to see have a match? I would like to see Jack Jester, an ICW wrestler, face Mox. Honestly, to my memory, to my knowledge, I can't think of many UK wrestlers that I've been following that I would love to see in AEW on that show. I can think of a few people from NXT UK that are no longer in WWE. Someone like Mark Andrews, who I think is tremendous. I would love to see Mark Andrews on that show make an appearance against whoever. It doesn't really matter to me. To see Mark Andrews on the show would be cool. We saw Trent Seven recently in AEW. Him being brought back for a match would be nice. I'm trying to think of other names that come to mind. Will Ospreay, he's obviously one of the more notable English professional wrestlers out there right now. Him being back in AEW for a rematch with Kenny, and maybe they have the rematch, and maybe that's where Kenny drops the belt back to Ospreay, or they just have a match to, I don't know, to set up a series or whatever. If they don't do Forbidden Door 2 this year, which we don't know if they are or not, it would be cool to see them do Ospreay and, Omega 2 on that show in England, where Ospreay's from, so I think that'd be pretty awesome as well. We actually had one more question come in while we were recording here, at the very last second, from Joe M. I think he's got two questions, actually. No, just one. I think it's just one. He just sent this in on YouTube like literally 2 minutes ago, so I'm glad we got this in before we finished recording. He said, is it possible that Drew McIntyre has reached his peak in WWE? Watching the 2020 Rumble back, the way he was booked and the reaction he received felt like something similar to an Austin, Rock, or Cena. Now, obviously, he was never going to reach those heights, but he doesn't even feel close to an Orton or Roman at the moment. In this year's Rumble, he was essentially just a tag team guy, and that's another thing, since Sheamus will likely be tied up with Gunther. What's he going to be doing at WrestleMania this year? I actually don't agree with that. Now, he was never going to be, like you said, an Austin, Rock, or Cena. Never. I don't think it's fair to compare him, the reaction he got in that Rumble, to Austin, Rock, or Cena. You said, it was on par with that. Okay, Kofi Kingston got a massive reaction when he won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Does that make him the next Austin, Rock, or Cena? Sometimes people get those massive reactions because they're really over, but it doesn't make them the next Austin, Rock, or Cena. Sami Zayn's really fucking over right now. Is he the next Austin, Rock, or Cena? The answer is no. They're carving their own path. McIntyre, I actually completely disagree, because I feel like the booking of McIntyre has been great. Because, like Kofi, like I just said, there's been a lot of instances in recent years, even in the last 10 years, where people will win the Rumble, win the Money in the Bank briefcase, even get a world title run, and then they don't stay at that level. Jinder comes to mind. Kofi, who I love, comes to mind. He got fucked with the book. I mean, Jinder should have never been at that level, but Kofi should have been, and they never really followed through with it. Now he's right back to where he was. I think of Jack Swagger. I think of Del Rio. I think of a lot of people from the last 10 years who, they pushed towards that level, and they got big reactions, Ryback being another one, and the booking was bad. Some of those people should not have been in that level to begin with, I agree. McIntyre did, and the booking was strong enough to where he had a great year-long, a year-long storyline in the title picture on and off when he was champion twice, carrying the show through the Thunderdome era. I've been at a lot of shows with Drew on the card. He still gets some of the loudest reactions of anyone in any of these shows. Maybe that's a testament to how not over the rest of the roster is. But whether it's SmackDown, a pay-per-view, Raw, whatever, McIntyre always gets great reactions. And he feels like a main eventer. He wasn't just a tag team guy in the fucking Rumble this year. A tag team guy would have been Montez Ford or Chad Gable. McIntyre was in there for a very long time with Sheamus. That goes to your next question. What does he do at WrestleMania this year? I think it's a triple threat with Gunther and Sheamus for the championship. I've said this before. I don't know if it was on here or elsewhere, but personally, I would rather see Gunther and Sheamus one-on-one at Mania, because I would rather see Sheamus beat Gunther one-on-one and finally get that win, beat him for the belt. I just don't know what else you do with McIntyre, because he's already feuded with Karrion Kross. I don't think we see a McIntyre LA Knight feud at WrestleMania. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if we get that, though. And he's obviously not going for the World Championship, nor should he. So, if he's been tied up with Sheamus, we've never gotten Sheamus and McIntyre at WrestleMania, I don't think. Not one-on-one anyway, and this wouldn't be one-on-one either. But, McIntyre and Gunther haven't had much interaction together, so running that back would be cool. With the triple threat there, I think that'd be great. And you can still have Sheamus beat Gunther for the championship. I still think he can pin Gunther. If they don't want to do that and they want to protect Gunther, I don't really think it's necessary. Just have him get beat. I mean, Sheamus beating him just is the real story anyway, because he lost to him twice. Him winning the championship by not pinning him kind of hinders that story, in my opinion. But still, we get an interaction between Sheamus and McIntyre at Mania. We get Drew and Gunther for the first time, and Sheamus can hopefully finally pin Gunther for the championship. So, a triple threat, I mean, I'd prefer a singles match, but a triple threat should be fantastic with the three of these guys. And, I think that's what we're getting at Mania. So, I think Drew's in a great spot. He's still very over. He's always on the show. He's always involved in, like, a higher ranking on the show. Last year, he faced Baron fucking Corbin at WrestleMania, and he still got a good reaction, and he still won, and they had a pretty good match. I mean, the guy can make pretty much anything work. He's one of the few people who WWE has pushed and made a new star out of, and he has stayed at that level. He is, he may not be a Roman Reigns or a Randy Orton, because, who the fuck is, but, Roman's in that, Drew is in, honestly, even a better spot than AJ Styles, who was also a main eventer, but AJ has not been in the world title picture in a very long time. Drew at least has been. Drew is even in a better spot, I would say, than like a Kevin Owens, who's in a pretty good spot. I think of like Rollins and I think of McIntyre being at that like 1B level, where they're not the guys of the company, although McIntyre is pretty much one of the faces of the company, specifically on SmackDown. But, even like Big E, honestly, if Big E was still around, I love the guy. I think after he dropped the championship, he would have been right back to where he was in the tag team division. So, I don't know, man. I think McIntyre's had a great run, and even if he doesn't win a WrestleMania, that's perfectly fine, because he doesn't need to, and we'll see what happens after that. And that's going to do it, guys, for episode 479 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, February 1st, 2023. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We have a ton more going on in the week to come. We have a lot more videos to post from Royal Rumble weekend. A lot of interviews coming in the weeks to come as well. Like I said, I still got to review SmackDown Lowdown from a couple days ago, Raw Talk from Monday, among other things. So keep an eye out here on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. And send in your questions through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.